I'm Dave Sider, baby. This is Rock Radio UK, and today we're talking to one of the men behind Call of the Wild Festival, Dave O'Hara. Hello.
Hey up, Dave. How we doing?
Not too bad, mate. How are you? You're looking nice and relaxed.
Yeah, kind of. Been a
Just
long
got
trip away overseas, but getting back into the swing of it now.
good. Just got up this morning, have we? Or
No, I was just surprised.
you were surprised?
Yeah,
Surprised?
that's
Yeah.
all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. This could have been a very different video.
It could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting here in my underpants checking emails.
Ooh. That's the beauty of radio. Nobody can see me actually what I'm wearing, especially when it's like
Yeah,
first thing in the morning. Could be anything.
it helps, doesn't
I don't know if my listeners are going to be listening anymore.
it?
Anyway,
Mm.
uh, Call of the Wild have very kindly accepted Rock Radio UK as their main radio sponsor this year, or for the next year. I've got to say a
Yeah,
big thank you for that. That's fantastic for us, and hopefully we can help you guys as well.
you're more than welcome, mate. It's for us, it's about more than this year. It's a long-term partnership as far as we're concerned. You may change your mind on that once you get into the inner workings of things a little bit with us, but no, it's a long-term thing. Um, we like how you go about things. We listen to the radio shows, the reviews that you do, how you interact with the bands, how you help advise bands when they need it. All of it is very much in keeping with what we are trying to doing actually with Call of the Wild.
Um, yeah, I mean it's all by accident, honestly, what we did. There's no
Yeah.
big plan.
Yeah, well, there kind of wasn't to begin with for us.
Right.
It started with Raz and I out on tour with A Joker's Rage and Knockout Kane years ago,
Right.
and we got pissed off with everybody ripping people off,
Yeah.
people disappearing with the money from shows, and band managers that just didn't do what a lot of bands were paying them to do, and there was all sorts of things, and we're just talking and whinging and complaining about the state of it all. And
Hmm.
anyway, long story short, we turned around and said, well, let's just put on a festival and do it how we want to do it.
Okay.
And that's
So
where it all started.
so when was the first festival, Call of the Wild?
2019.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Started talking about it and trying to book things up and whatever else in 2018. We were actually going to do the first one over at Kirklinton Hall in Carlisle, just outside of Carlisle, um,
Right.
which, as most people will know, is pretty much Raz's stomping ground for Rockmantic. That's where all the Rockmantic events
Yeah.
started. It was at the Brickyard there in Carlisle. So we had a look at doing that, and we were fairly well progressed along it. We had bands booked, Wild Hearts, Hardcore Superstar, Virgin Mary's, few others. And the police told us that they weren't going to support the license because of the Appleby Horse Fair that was on right at the same time.
Right.
So they were concerned about just the number of people that would be in the area and whether they'd be able to police it effectively and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
they said we can't support this at this point. Um, we sent a scrabbling, and we ended up just by sheer luck talking to the Lincolnshire Showground, and they had a cancellation for the weekend that we needed.
Okay.
So we almost tore their arm off and said, yes, we'll have it. And that's how we found our what now feels like home.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
So 2019 was the first one. I mean, who was there? what was it like? Because there's one that I didn't go to.
Yeah, it feels like it was Razanai when you look at what it is today. And to be honest, that was because then, and I'm trying, I don't want to say back then because it's only 5 years ago, realistically, but the mindset of people was very, very different around new events and things
Mm,
like that. People were like, well, they're just going to take off with your money, they're going to rip you off, it's going to this, that, all these negative comments. And we said that say, think, and feel whatever you like, but we know for sure that we'll be stood hammered in front of that main stage when the Wild Hearts are playing.
yeah.
And whether anybody else is there or not, we will be because it's all bought and paid for.
Okay.
So come along. And 458 people, I think it was, did. We had two glamping tents.
Everybody squeezed in that, or was it?
Um, no, not really. It was two, it might have been five. I don't know. I'm getting old, so things get hazy. But the stage setup was very, very different. We did the second and third stages inside
Mm,
in that big long building right
yeah,
beside the main arena now.
yeah.
So it was okay. It was it kept helped keep the costs down. It made things quite simple. And we had one stage outside, which is was pretty much right by where the toilet block is.
Right.
All right. So it was that there facing out towards the main car park. And it worked quite well, but it wasn't the vision. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. We had a few issues with the sound, obviously, inside the big building.
Mm,
And we listened to the feedback from everybody that was there and we adapted, we changed it, and we found a better way, which basically led us to the setup that we have today with the two stages side by side, the big tent with the third stage in, and the
mm,
bar and all that kind of thing. And it's just been little tweaks ever since to refine it, listen to the feedback from the fans and the punters that come along, the bands, the management, the agents, all of them, and take as much of that as we can into tweaking the vision that we have for where we want to take it.
okay. Okay. The second year was a bit problematic for you guys, wasn't it? Thinking
Uh,
of how
yeah,
many times you had to put it on, and then
I didn't have any grey hair before that, mate.
I believe you. I
Uh,
believe you, mate.
yeah, that that was tough. Obviously, COVID and things were tough for everybody. Some a lot more so than others. But the constant moving of the goalposts
Mm,
and never knowing if we were able to go ahead, and I think the main and it's the big thing that saved Call of the Wild was the support of the fans
okay.
and the people that buy the tickets. Because almost to a man, they said, we don't want a refund. We know this is going to go ahead. We know you're going to do what you said you're going to do. And for us, the key to all of it has always been communication
Mm,
and talk to everybody, whether that's via email, on the phone, on site when you're walking around the event on the weekend. Stop and chat to people. Let them chat to you. Let them complain, moan, say that was ace, that was shit, that whatever,
mm,
and just talk to people. Find out what they want to see, what they want to hear, and keeping them appraised of what was going on and where we stood financially and how everything else was looking around the event and the bands and getting people in and out and COVID protocols and making sure people stayed safe if we could run the event was the key. It has been the key to putting us where we are right now.
I mean,
But yeah, it was a nightmare. I think it was 4 times we had to change and rearrange and reorganize and change bands. And we'd kept like South of Salem were on that lineup from I think it was right after Call of the Wild in 2019. We had them booked,
okay.
but they never got to play until the best part of 2 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so just things like that. And we have to thank the bands as well because they stuck with it and they kept their faith in us. And we can never repay that. All we can do is say thank you. And whenever you need help, give us a shout.
I remember speaking to you via Zoom, I think. It was when you were trying to get things going in mid-COVID, not during a lockdown, but with all the spacing issues and things like that that
Oh,
needed to be
yeah.
addressed. I mean, you were fairly positive at the time, and then I think it was only like 2 or 3 days after I released the video, it was like, no, we've cancelled it again. We were moving it back
Yeah.
to another day. I mean, it must have been an absolute nightmare just going, yeah, setting your brain to say, right, we're going, and having to
Yeah.
turn off the switch again.
We got to a point where we were measuring distances between tables because people had to stay in their own groups
Mm,
and bubbles effectively. So the, one of the things that we worked figured out was X amount of tables. So let's just say there was 100 big picnic tables, and then you had people at those tables, and those people weren't allowed under the COVID rules, weren't allowed technically to mix, which is quite difficult when you're at a music event. They
yeah.
weren't allowed to stand up.
Mm,
This was part of the rulings. They weren't allowed to stand up and actually enjoy. They weren't allowed to sing. They couldn't go to the bar to get their own beer. So we actually looked into having waiting staff
yeah.
come along and take orders and and obviously everybody's masked up and all of that's going on, hand sanitizers everywhere, routes to go into the toilet, another route to come out of the toilet. So everything was one way, separation from bands and the stage, and you weren't allowed to get up close to the stage and all this kind of thing. And I think off the top of my head, we would have needed something like 120 bar staff just to be able to do it.
Wow.
And we were prepared to go there to get the event on, right? And then we get it all sorted out. We're almost ready to go, and they pull the plug again. So we're like, right, okay, that's it. So we officially cancel the event,
Mm,
and then 2 weeks later, the rules change, and we could have put it on
yeah.
without all of the people and without all of the extra staff and everything else. And we're like, how do we recover?
Yeah. Well, you recovered fairly well because this was my first event or first recollection of Quarter of the World. You put on a
Hmm.
4-day event, a full 4 days,
Yeah.
which was great music wise, but not so great for my liver.
No, it wasn't too great for our sanity either, I don't think. By that stage, obviously, and going back, and we'll probably talk about this at some point, we had, Lee and John were on board with Raz and I now by this point,
Yeah.
and pretty much all the way through COVID as well. Um, but we're making sure we found a way to honor the agreements that we'd put in place with the bands
Mm,
because we didn't want to let them down, and making sure that the fans and the ticket holders that had stuck with us all the way through it. And this is pretty much 2 years later.
mm,
We had to do something that said, thank you. So that was what day four was all about. No extra cost. No, this is on us. Thank you very much. Let's go nuts.
yeah.
And we kind of did.
Yeah. it was a good event, a great event. It certainly cemented my love for the festival itself. I've been back every year since, for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. The I think the enduring thing from it is, and it kind of cemented in us four that we actually had something tangible.
Hmm.
There was a vibe about the event. There was a vibe in the first year, but once we got over that big COVID hump and the way it all came together and the changes that we'd made to how we were setting things up and the flow of things and that communication, the bands, the fans, all of it, there was kids running around playing football.
Yeah.
That kind of thing that just turned it into a genuine family rock festival, family orientated rock festival. And I would say 98% of the people that were there in year one still go today.
Okay.
And to me, that's mind blowing.
Hmm.
That just there's something there that I can't quite put my finger on. None of us can, but there's that vibe and that I don't know. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah, it's the family. I suppose it's family chemistry. That's what I put down to it. Because,
Yeah, it could be.
everybody seems to get
Yeah,
on. Everybody's there for the same reason. Everybody loves the place. And
yeah.
yeah, it is a good vibe when you go there. Okay, let's step back a little bit because it was you and Raz to start with,
Yep.
but you have another two guys on board. Explain how that happened.
Um, Lee was the first one to come in. Obviously, he used to play bass for Knockout Kane, so Raz had known him for years.
Yeah.
Lee's also works his day job is in the industry. He's, like nowadays, he basically runs the drill in Lincoln.
Okay.
Um, but he's also been a stage manager at some of the biggest events on the Glastonbury and snowbombing and all kinds of things.
Mhm.
So he knows the production side of things inside out.
Right.
And I don't. I've worked with bands and things like that, but I've never, that side of things was a little bit over my head. Raz was dealing with the booking. I was dealing with the operational side of things. So we needed somebody to look after the production.
Yeah.
And that's where Lee came in. Um, Made some changes that to things and how we set things up, just the flow of everything, and instantly improved it. Um, and at the same time as dealing with the operations and whatever, I was trying to deal with the financial side of things and trying to keep my head on that. But in between that and my day job, it was a really, really difficult balancing act.
Right.
And I think it was Lee actually mentioned John about, for the on the financial side of it. And John's been around the music scene for years. He's well known, highly respected. Um, we had a chat with him. I was actually sat in my mum's house in Belfast at the time. We had a chat and we brought him on board, and he basically became the chief financial officer of the company, of
Okay.
Upstaged. And again, Raz and I were like, well, we need 10 grand to pay this band. I'm like, okay, I'll go back offshore and work another trip, and we'll have 10 grand to pay that band. And that's kind of how Raz and I were going about it. Day to day, put your hand in your pocket, see what fell out, and then see what we could do with it.
Yeah.
John streamlined all of that, improved everything massively. And the four of us worked really, really well together. Quite strange because we're four very, very different characters, but we work extremely well together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving forward, I mean, we had then, I suppose it'll be 2023 following year.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
yeah, can we remember the headliners of that year? I mean, it wasn't it those damn crows?
Those Damn Crows was one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, they closed out the Sunday night.
yeah. I mean, I remember looking around and the place was just absolutely rammed.
Yeah, that was for me personally. That one was quite special because I'd first watched Those Damn Crows in a place called the Dollhouse in Abertillery over in South Wales,
Yeah,
and they were. I can't remember. They might have been main support. They may have had. I can't remember. I saw them there, and that was in 20, must have been 2017, I think.
right.
And I was like, wow, these guys are going to go somewhere.
Yeah,
Really, just great band. So moving on, I'd seen them a few other times. A band I was working with at the time called Tomorrow Was Lost, supported them a couple of times, got on great with the lads, and said, right, we're putting on a festival. Do you want to play it? And they actually played the first Call of the Wild
right.
on the outdoor stage. I think they may have been second on or third on, somewhere in the afternoon on, I think it was the Saturday, I think. Obviously, it went down a storm. Things progressed for them. And we thought, right, and part of what we do as Upstaged or Call of the Wild, Rockmantic, is when we work with a band, we don't just put them on and then move away, move on, right? If they've got something, there's something, if the fans like it, we'll bring them back. And we can also advise and help if they will do whatever we can to help them
Mm.
just navigate and negotiate the industry at this level because it's a feeding frenzy, really. And what I wanted, I think we all wanted it, was one of those bands that had played already that had transitioned through because I'm pretty sure they played Rockmantic as well, and they'd done a couple of our events, and we needed someone. Well, we wanted one of those bands that we've worked with from all over those years to headline our open air event.
Yeah,
Raz had done it years before with Massive Wagons. They put them on at Rockmantic. I think in the first year of that, they were then. I think it was one of their first headline shows at a festival was at Rockmantic, and to be able to do it with Those Damn Crows and bring them back at the level they had reached at that point was, they'd already played Download. They'd done all sorts of wonderful things. But what sort of capped it for me was everybody stayed on the Sunday night.
yeah.
The place, like you said, the place was rammed. But stood beside me, watching that set, was Andy Copping from Download.
Okay.
Watching Those Damn Crows to see how they progressed, and just having conversations about them and where they were going, where they could go. That was for me the icing on the cake to that point. And sure enough, they went and they played Download the following year
Yeah, yeah.
on the main stage.
I mean, what you're talking about now also leads me to the question about the Trailblazer event you run, which
Yep.
seems to run hand in hand with Quarter of the Wild. Tell me about that.
Trailblazer was something we started in year one. Um, there was a we just did it in Lincoln and venue called, I think it was called the Alley Cat, the venue. Just small, great sound, could feel quite packed quite quickly. And
Mm.
we would bring half a dozen bands up to play. for the chance to play on the outdoor stage at the first Call of the Wild. And might have been the second as well. Like I said, it all gets a bit hazy, but
Mm.
one of those bands was a band called, they're not around anymore, unfortunately, but it was a band called Revival Black
Yeah.
with Dan Byrne. And there was a couple of others. Wolves Among Us was another one um, that really stood out, but just needed that little bit of something, a little bit of advice.
Yeah.
So we all had a chat with them. We all not helped them along, but offered bits and pieces of advice. And they came back and they played, and Revival Black went on to do some pretty good things before, the band unfortunately broke up. But a big part of what we try to do, especially on the Trailblazer side of things, is to find those bands that have something
Mm.
and just don't quite know how to get it across, where to play, who to talk to move them, move the band forward. And it gives us an opportunity to showcase all of those bands to our ticket holders. So when we changed the format a little bit this year, and we did like an online thing, and then now we have the live event in March, I believe, at
Yes.
uh, Night Train down in Bradford over 2 days. I think it's like 12 or 13, 14 bands. They've come through all the heats, and that live final gives those bands, a chance to show us what they've got. We've seen it in the videos. Some of them we've seen live already. We've crossed paths at some point. We've all watched the videos. We monitor their socials. We have a look. We check, see what they're doing, how they do it, and then okay, play live. Show us what you got. See what our customers think of you guys, because it's their say. We get no say in this
Yeah.
unless it's a tie. And if it's a tie, then the four of us will make a decision just to break the deadlock. But effectively, it's our customers, our ticket holders that go to that event that make the decision as to who gets to play Call of the Wild, because it's their festival.
Yeah.
And it also gives us a chance to see those bands and keep coming back to it, offer the advice, help, nurture, guide, help them move forward. If they make it onto the Call of the Wild stage, help them take the next step after that. If they don't, try and help them improve to get to a point where they can do something like that. Whether it's on one of our stages, whether it's at Stone Dead, whether it's at Steelhouse, Mayor's Festival down at KK's,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's all about helping the bands progress.
Right, so we've discussed the Trailblazer event with the young bands coming up, and also the festival itself is becoming quite well known for all the help it gives to like young photographers I've seen in the pit. And also,
Hmm.
what other plans have you got along those lines?
Oh man. Right. So young photographers, let's start there. Matthew Pitfield, bless him. Kid's an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
Um, saw him walking through the crowd at, I think it was the second Call of the Wild.
Mm.
Almost sure it was the second one. Local fella, local kid, there with his dad, and he had a pretty good camera with him. I think he was 10 years old,
Mm.
and we saw him taking the photographs. And I happened to be on the other side of the barrier, just watching. I can't remember who it was, and I was like, "Hmm, you want to take some photographs, kid?" He's like, yeah. Well, come on then. And we pulled him in, set him down in the pit, and said, "Off you go, click away." So we started taking some shots and just watching how he behaved, I guess is the right word, when he was in the pit. It was like one of those, this kid's got something here. He really interested. He knows he's got an idea of what he wants to do. So we introduced him to Mark Ellis, who's our in-house photographer,
Yeah.
and said, "Mark, meet Matthew. Matthew, meet Mark. Matthew, Mark's going to show you how to be a proper gig photographer." And that was that. The kid's face, just watching his eyes light up, his chin hit the floor as he got pulled up on stage to shoot Kicking Valentina.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know. And he's like, "Hang on a minute, you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, go for it. That's what it's all about." And from that, Matthew he comes back every year. He's shooting gigs all over the place now. I think he's just shot the Almighty when they were on their last tour. I think he's 14 years old now. Probably driving Mark, his dad, insane because camera gear gets expensive, and as you get better, you need more.
Yeah.
And he is good, really, really good. Great kid, hardworking, can talk to you as well. Just a pleasure to work with,
Yeah.
right? And part of what we're trying to do is develop that interest right across the board, whether it's as a tug, a sound engineer, a stage manager, tech, drum tech, guitar tech, whatever. Kids want to do it. There's a way that we can set things up and put things in place for them to be able to come and work with us at the festival and do these kinds of things.
Hmm.
And it all really started with a conversation I had with Mark Ellis years ago now. And Mark was looking at doing this specifically for young photographers and setting up like a mentor group and working with kids. I say kids, but say 15 to 18, in and
Yeah.
around that age bracket, excuse me, that had an interest in concert and kid photography. And unfortunately, back then, nothing came of it. Events just overtook us, and there wasn't a lot that could be done about it. But now we're in a position where we can do it through our own festival. Then why not? So we're just in the process of putting a bit of a template together that we can work from that should hopefully cover all the disciplines into running a festival. Um, Obviously, it's more about the interesting jobs. Obviously, we don't want to have kids running around picking up all the litter. Although they do an amazing job of that anyway, they all just put their stuff in the bin. They don't throw it on the floor. It's really, really cool to watch that. And I think that's part of that vibe that we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
where they all, everybody takes some pride in the event. And that's a big part of what makes it what it is. But being able to do this for kids, and for me, from 10 years old and upwards, if they've got the interest and they want to do it and they want to learn, kids like Matthew, all day long. That's what we're here for. That to me, it's about passing on that knowledge.
Yeah. I
No
mean,
point being a gatekeeper.
no, I mean, everybody say, rock is dying and things like that. I mean, but if we don't encourage young people to come along and just be involved or take photographs or just do anything like that,
Mhm.
anything within the business, then yeah, rock
Yeah,
will die if we don't encourage it. And so many kids like that. I mean, my granddaughter comes to a lot of festivals now as it is, and she's really into the entire global aspect of the rock world now. And
Yeah.
it's great because she talks to her kids at school, her friends at school, and then the word spread, even if it's just about our favorite band, you know,
Mhm.
uh, if you just start opening the minds of other kids that maybe are a little bit more, how can I put it, generic.
Yeah.
And they just like open their minds, and you think, okay, maybe we've got another fan of the rock world and the rock industry there. Maybe another one pops up there, and this is how the rock industry will keep evolving and keep rolling on by just
You've
giving them that interest.
yeah, it's the rock industry, just the music industry as a whole,
Mm,
right? We're a very small cog in an incredibly large machine. And if we do our little bit, then those people, and whether be they kids or adults, doesn't matter. Those people that we help will remember that, and they will end up doing the same thing for someone else or the generation that comes after them, and help that just keep moving. They'll like pay it forward,
mm,
right? I've had people help me.
yeah.
We all have. Everybody has had someone help them with something. So if you're in a position to be able to help someone, surely it makes sense to just do that.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Back to the festival. This year's festival, shall we talk a bit about that? I mean, what changes did you
Yeah.
make for this year?
Um, I'm not telling you.
I meant this past year.
Oh, for 2020, for 24?
Yeah, I mean, we are still in
Right.
2024. Just,
Yeah, I've got my festival head on though, so this year
yeah,
is next year. Um, the changes were actually quite small.
right.
Um, the way the setup actually works quite well. We moved the band merch away from the bar,
Mm,
not for any reason other than it made it easier for the bands to get merch in and out of the tent. So we put it up close to the stage where they could literally be backstage, reverse the van up, offload all their merch, sell whatever they were going to sell, load it all up, go park the van up, and then go to the bar. And that seemed to work really, really well. We had everybody, all different bands, the headliners and everything else, everybody all in there, mixing, talking, chatting away, having a drink. Great. We also opened up a passage through between the VIP area under the trees and
mm,
the glamping area out the back of
yeah.
that VIP area, which seemed to go down really well. Um, Made it easier for the glampers to get back and forward without having to go all the way down to the bottom of the field and round the toilets, all that kind of thing to get back into the main arena. Um, we had a breakfast truck over there for the glampers, save them having to go all the way over the arena first thing in the morning. Everything was there for them ready, and that worked really well. But outside of that, really, that was it.
Okay.
There
Okay.
wasn't an awful lot. We brought the glampers in through a separate gate, just because, again, it made life easier for them instead of having to drive. They could park in the main car park, walk in through a separate gate, and they were at their tent within minutes instead
Right.
of driving all the way around the back of the site, things like that. Um, Stages were the same we've had for the last couple of years, and set up nicely side by side. Lots of pyro for Lost Society,
Yes, quite a bit.
which was, yeah,
I mean, they were the surprise headliners for a lot of people because I think some of the so many people just didn't know who they were, hadn't really done
I
their
hadn't a clue,
research.
mate. I had no idea who they were.
Yeah, but they just
Raz
blew
said,
the
Raz,
socks off of everybody.
yeah, Raz turned up at a meeting. Say turned up, right?
Yeah,
Started, online one day. And like, oh, I've booked Lost Society to headline Saturday night. We're like, fuck it. Who? Never heard of them. Who are they? And then we started doing a bit of digging and we're like, oh.
yeah,
And, we saw they played Bloodstock and I think on the main stage as well.
yeah,
So it was like, oh, this is interesting. And we do like to throw curveballs like that in there,
yeah,
right? Because it keeps people guessing, it keeps them on their toes. People get excited. It's something new to find. Like you said, pretty much nobody had heard of them in our audience. Excuse me. So to see the reaction of people that night was amazing.
yeah, yeah,
And people coming away going, what the hell just happened?
yeah. Pretty much. I mean, I was exactly the same. Yeah,
Yeah. And I watched the video back it's up on our upstaged YouTube channel. That opening 8 minutes was just insane. Unfortunately, I never saw it live. I was running around the site doing noise monitoring, but I could see the flames from the far end of the site. It was just wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that one's all Raz. That was an
yeah,
absolute pearl of that.
I took my hat to him. But having
Yeah.
said that, it was like the comeback gig for the choir boys as well, really, on the first night.
Yeah. Yeah. They're, what can you say about the choir boys that hasn't been said already? Right.
Yeah,
But they had Luke playing and it's definitely taking it up a level,
hmm.
in my humble opinion. And that set, I think I managed to catch the last 25, 30 minutes of it. It was superb.
Yeah, it was
Took
absolutely
me
superb.
back to watching the choir boys in the Mandela Hall in Belfast in, I think it must have been 89.
Right.
Had me flashing back to that gig. And
I, yeah,
that was kind of cool for me.
yeah. Um, Plaqueta as well, closing out Sunday. Nice, well, just warm, fuzzy feeling and singing along
Yeah.
tunes and everything. So, yeah,
Yeah, but what a fantastic band.
yeah,
I hadn't I'd obviously heard of them. I'd never seen them live, amazingly. It just every time they were playing, I seemed to be overseas working somewhere. And being able to stand and watch, I had a conversation with Danny the day before. We were just stood at the side of the stage watching bands, and he's wandering around the crowd, like a lot of the bands tend to do at Call of the
mm,
Wild. They all go off and have a wander through the crowd and whatever else. And he was having a ball. And that set for me was one of the highlights of all the bands that have played at Call of the Wild. And I think when I think it was John mentioned it, when Danny saw the pyro because he was there on I think the Saturday night, he saw the pyro that Lost Society used.
mm.
He was like, why did we not ask for some of this? you know, and it was like, next time we play here, we're having that. And I was like, yeah, okay, that works. But yeah, great band. Thoroughly enjoyed their set. Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, this leads us now into what's been announced already for this year. I
I
mean,
think it's all announced now,
it
isn't it?
is all announced, yeah. Maybe not all the Trailblazer bands, but everything now.
Trailblazer bands, no, and it's us, it's upstaged. So there'll probably be something that'll get thrown at you that is a little bit left field as well.
Mm,
But hell of a lineup again, and it rises again. Raz kind of pulled it out the bag.
yeah. I mean, commoners,
Varied.
yeah, the commoners. I mean, I saw them
Mhm.
at Steelhouse this last year, and they were absolutely superb. But they're sort of like mid-set and didn't get a very long set as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really looking
Yeah,
forward to seeing
there's
that.
I think they were one of John's picks, if I remember right. But very Black Crowsy feel. I think they're just
Yeah,
awesome band. Looking forward to it. And I don't everywhere you look on that bill, there's just quality all the way through.
yeah. I mean, the highlight for me is Royal Republic, which you've just announced on the
I think
Saturday
it will
night.
be for a lot of people.
Yeah. Um, Having just seen them at KK's as well, and just how well they perform. I've seen them now 6 times. A couple of times at
Okay.
Download, a couple of times at Bristol, and a couple other times at KK's. And
Yeah.
they just get better and better and better. And people, again, are a little bit like Lost Society. They haven't necessarily heard of them
Mm.
on the mainstream, but when they go, they just stand there with their mouths open and go,
Yeah.
"Wow!" But also, it's a good cross section of ages at their gigs. You've got the young guys, because they appeal to a younger generation. You've got the older guys who've seen them before, like myself, who've seen them before and know what to expect and think, yeah, they're a great band. So,
Yeah.
it's a hopefully, hopefully they're going to be the band that sort of like bring Quarter of a While to a lot more new people.
I hope so. It'd be great. And don't get me wrong, the way we've always, it was a conscious decision on how we grow the festival,
Mm,
not to just woof,
yeah.
right? It was always about keep it fairly small, keep it regular, keep it the same people coming back, add another few hundred each
Mm,
year, introduce them to what we are, right? Because we're not Download, we're not Steelhouse, we're not Stone Dead. There's something quite different about how we are as a festival. And if we oversaturate that or overpopulate, maybe is a better word, I think we would run a risk of losing a vibe that we 100% have. And I keep using that word. And it's unfortunate, but it's probably the best description
mm.
I can find anyway. So bringing in a few hundred more every year is perfect for us because it allows us to figure out how things work,
Yeah.
what works best for the punters, and all that kind of thing. So if Royal Republic did introduce another few hundred people to Call of the Wild, that's ace. But also, just like we know those people that have been with us from the very beginning are going to have their socks blown off by that band.
Mm.
And that's just as, or if not a little bit more important for us because it's about improving the event for those that have stuck with us and worked with us all the way through from the beginning. And I
Yeah.
think sorry, as long as we keep that at the back of our minds, the festival will continue to grow, that vibe will stay, and bands like Royal Republic and Lost Society will keep coming and working with us
Mm.
because they know that we're not there just to we work in a different way, I guess.
Okay. So, apart from Royal Republic, highlights for you this coming year?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't. I'm quite looking forward to the Commoners.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Because again, I've not seen them live. I've listened to them. I've seen bits and pieces online, but I've never seen them live, and I'm looking forward to that. Um, without looking at the lineup, I don't know,
Mm.
to be honest. Michael Monroe's definitely going to be interesting on the Sunday night.
He certainly knows how to put on a show.
Oh man, genuine old school proper rock legend
Yeah.
playing in RB Field at Call of the Wild. See us in it.
He's just actually broken a few ribs, hasn't he? Cancelled a couple of gigs from.
I believe so. Yeah, I saw something
Yeah.
up. Was it yesterday or day before? I saw something about that.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
I mean, he certainly puts his all into a show, doesn't he?
yeah, yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. Just there's I don't get much time to stop and watch bands during the day.
Mm.
Hopefully, we between us have been able to organize things just a little bit better again this year, where I can get a little bit more time to watch some of the bands. Headliners, for sure, I need to be able to just stop and watch
Yeah.
somehow. Excuse me. I do enjoy the Trailblazer tent. Um, because again, a lot of bands that I haven't seen before, some I haven't heard of, and it's that discovery of finding something that new, something that speaks to you more than maybe the band before or the band after. Doesn't matter what that is, but it's about people finding something new for them,
Mm.
right? And that's kind of what I like about the Trailblazer stage. It still happens out on the two main stages, but I, that there we go with that friggin' vibe word again. But in the Trailblazer stage, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't answer your question, Dave. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Um, I did ask the question about subtle changes for the last year, and you sort of blew me away for this next year. But I will ask the question again. What subtle changes will we see?
Um, well, it's been announced actually.
Hmm.
We've sort of partnered up with Rocket Drinks and their ABK.
Yeah.
So we've got ABK's Hell Beer going to be on tap this year. Good, proper, premium German lager.
Mm.
That's going to please a lot of people. There's a couple of other little things that we're working on that I can't say anything about just yet. Hopefully, no more end of January, early February, and we'll be able to say something about that. People will like it. Kids are probably going to love it. Parents won't thank us too much for it, but it's going to be cool. I
Oh,
know.
go on.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Raz and I particularly enjoyed this. So did Mark Ellis. Um, we all had a sampling session at Cadwell Park, thanks to the hospitality of Leon Haslam and his race team. So that was pretty cool.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I won't push too much. Uh, One of the little things that has upset me a little bit is Primer. I mean, I was just hoping to go and see them there at the festival, but they've had a better offer, haven't they?
Well, yeah, it's a tough one because
Mm.
I work with Prima very closely. Um, they love Call of the Wild. People at Call of the Wild wanted to see them again, kind of like yourself. The interviews you've done with them are a little bit off the wall
Mm,
and a lot kind of crazy,
mm.
but they've Blaze Bailey, after they did the UK tour this year, Blaze got back in touch and offered them the European leg of his next tour. So, and you can't turn that kind of offer down, you
No.
know. So obviously, I had a chat with Raz, and he completely agrees. Obviously, that no, you can't. We just have to replace them, and hopefully, we'll find a slot for them 2026. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
I'm glad to say that I'm not going to need too much therapy after the next Call of the World, to be fair.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that lot turn twist in your head, eh? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah, but never mind.
That's true.
Is there anything else you would like to tell us about Call of the World? Something maybe I've not asked.
Sorry, I missed that, Dave. For some reason, Siri kicked in.
Okay. Uh, we'll try again. Is there anything else about Call of the Wild you would like to tell us about that I may have missed?
No, probably not. Um, Probably yes, once we hang up and I go, could have said that. But it's trying to figure the right way to put this. The big thing for us, for myself, Raz, John, and Lee, and everybody else, you know, Kurt, stage manager, absolute friggin' legend.
Hmm.
That guy works miracles every year. The entire production crew, you know, from James and Callum on the front of the house, and all the other guys that are dotted around all over the place, volunteers team. We started off with myself and Raz, a couple of guys on the stages, sorting things out. Kurt was there year one. James was there year one. Callum was there year one. The team has grown, and you know we've got John and Lee as directors now, and Kurt's still there. James is still there. Everybody that turned up for the second year, they're all still there, still working at the festival. The volunteers team is just growing nice and slow and organically, and they keep coming back year after year.
Yeah.
That to me, and the same with the fans that come every year, those from year one that's still coming, still buy their tickets on the weekend of the event for the following year. That's Call of the Wild for me. That group of people that come together every year. It's the first big event of the year. On the Thursday night at the party in the tent, it's nuts. It is. It's absolutely nuts. There's somebody walking around playing a bloody trombone, rockers and all their gear, dancing to ABBA. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? All those sorts of things. Some idiot running around in a blow up dinosaur suit. That's Call of the Wild. You know, Call of the Wild isn't us. It's everybody that turns up and enjoys themselves, has fun, finds a new band, watches a new band, discovers what proper toasties are actually supposed to be like,
Oh God, they were delicious.
right?
Yeah.
You know, find a new beer, find whatever it is. That group of people that keep coming back and introducing more people to what we are, that's Call of the Wild. And I don't know exactly what that is, which is frustrating
Mm. It's a vibe,
because I'd
mate.
like to be able to bottle it. And if I could and I could sell it, then I could get AC/DC to come and headline or have Metallica headline our 10-year anniversary like I told Raz was going to happen. You know?
Okay, okay.
Lars in his Zimmer frame and whatever. But you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it, that means that I just described. It means more to me than big headliners or any of the rest of it. And I know the rest of the lads feel pretty much the same.
Okay. Well, everybody can go and buy tickets at your website, I do believe.
Yeah, it's our new website. It's all
Yeah. It's very
shiny
shiny.
and yeah, so it does things and it works. And you can buy tickets and you can watch videos and read little blogs about every single band that's playing so far announced. There might be one or two more yet, but we shall see. Um, what else? All the FAQs,
Okay.
information. Please use it. Please read it before you email us or send us snotty messages or anything like that. Please have a read of that. It should answer most of your questions. If there's something there that isn't answered in there, then please email us and let us know, and we'll fix it.
Excellent.
Yeah. And the buy ticket link, top right hand corner.
Yeah, it does work. I've tried it out.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's great
Yeah.
stuff.
So it is. And very soon we're going to add a Rock Radio UK listen here button.
You are? I mean, yes, you are.
Yes, we are.
Excellent. I
Yep.
appreciate that.
Nah, mate, it's the least we can do. Uh, I've got a funny feeling this partnership between Upstaged, Call of the Wild, and Rock Radio UK, it's gonna work.
It was meant to be.
Oh Jesus.
Yes. We might as well just get married now.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
No? I mean, I'm
Well,
game if you know.
we'll have a stage at Call of the Wild to do it on.
This is true. Do you know Minister?
Yeah, Dave Saunders,
Okay. Okay. Invite him along.
Fallen Red drummer, he can do it.
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. I'll bring the rings. I
Oh
don't know if you're
God,
going to be wearing white.
no. Um, probably end up being a dinosaur suit. Oh,
Oh dear. On that bombshell. Thank you,
yeah.
Dave, for your
Thanks,
time.
Jeremy.
Thank you, Dave, for your time. I look forward to next year. It's going to be a lot of work for everybody involved, but I think, honestly, it's one of my favorite festivals, if not the favorite festival I go to. And
Appreciate that, mate.
I urge everybody to go and buy a ticket because without that, none of us would be here.
Very true. No, thanks for taking the time to chat, man. It's been
No worries.
really good. It's been enlightening. It's left me with a few things I need to go and think about too.
And a bit of therapy.
So,
Um,
yeah.
Dave, it's been a pleasure.